Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. And we have Cameron Herald, who is a top business consultant. He's absolutely amazing. He, at the age of 21, had 14 employees. By 35, he had built his first $200 million companies. By the age of 42, he engineered 1-800-GOT-JUNKS, spectacular growth from 2 million to 106 million. And he is just amazing. I've heard him speak personally, and he's an amazing speaker. And he's written some amazing books, Double Double, which is my favorite, Vivid Vision, which is another great one, Free PR, and so many more. So Cameron, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Chantel, thanks for having me. Wow, a little bit about myself. I was groomed as an entrepreneur. So my father and both my grandfathers owned their own companies, and they groomed my brother and sister and I to all be entrepreneurs. And the three of us have all been running our own companies for between 15 and 25 years each. It's really all we ever knew was running our own entrepreneurial companies. So we kind of grew up in that realm. I had a lot of entrepreneurial companies as a kid. In fact, I did a TED talk that's on the main TED.com website about raising entrepreneurial kids. Like, as you said, I had my first real company when I was 20 years old. I had 12 employees at 20. I had 14 employees at 21. So for 3 years during university, I had an operational company that I ran while I was in school. After leaving there, I grew an auto body chain, a private currency company. Then I came into 1-800-GOT-JUNK as the 14th employee. I grew that company to 3,100 employees system-wide in 6 years. We did it with no debt. We gave up no equity. We ranked as the number 2 company in Canada to work for. Landed 5,200 stories about our company in the media. Just really good success. Ranked as the number 2 company in the whole country. And I left there 13 years ago next month and started coaching CEOs and entrepreneurs. I've been coaching real businesses, typically 50 to 500 employees. And I've worked with clients in about 20 countries. I've done paid speaking events in 28 countries on 6 continents. And now I started an organization a couple of years ago called the COO Alliance, which is the only organization in the world for the second in command. And then I also have a podcast called the Second in Command Podcast.
Awesome. I love it. Well, our title today is How to Grow When It's Slow. So give listeners some tips on what you suggest they should do right now. Let's first start with a company that is a brick and mortar company. Let's say
Sure.
they've done everything brick and mortar. What are some of your tips to kind of make a huge fast U-turn to move to virtual?
To move to virtual, I have a client in Colombia that had 800 employees all in one location. He had no remote employees ever. Within 7 days, 700 of his 800 employees were working from home. It took him another week to get 50 more of them working from home, and then a third week to get the last 50 because they didn't even have internet access. And he's now got all 800 employees working from home. So pretty amazing that a big organization can shift that quickly. So at first, I think it's a mindset. You have that old adage that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think businesses just have to rip off the Band-Aid and do it quickly. So we have all the tools at our disposal. We've got laptops. Apple will ship them. You've got Wi-Fi, you've got Zoom, you've got Asana, you've got Slack. You have all the technology tools. You can hire people off Upwork or get free videos on YouTube on how to learn this technology, or you can hire a couple 23-year-olds to teach you how to use the technology, and you're really off to the races. It should be no different than actually running an operational business for the most part, unless you're a pizza parlor or you're selling shoes to people. Like, there's some businesses that are definitely impacted more than others because they're really brick and mortar, with people coming into their business. So those ones have a little bit more to finesse in terms of where their revenue is coming from, whether it's a product or service, and how they're connecting with their customer.
So let's talk about this client in particular. So you coached him, so you really know about it. So
Sure.
Let's give people real examples of what he did, like as specific as you can tell, because that's a lot of people, 800
Yeah.
to move virtually quickly.
The first part was looking at what technology tools did the employees need to be able to work from home. And it was laptops and internet access and headphones. So very, very simple to put those technology pieces in place. Most of them worked from laptops. The one that didn't, they purchased them or leased them. Those employees were set up. They had Wi-Fi access. Zoom, Asana, and Slack are really the three core tools that you have. Everything else you were using in your office anyway, whether it's email or instant messaging, all those tools are already on your computer. So that was an easy setup. The second one was very concrete goals and project plans for the month that were done by business area and then by person. So everyone left with really clear marching orders. The CEO did a daily 7-minute huddle with his employees. So the employees showed up for a daily 7-minute all company video huddle. And then he also sent out a twice a week video to all of his employees. So a quick video and almost like a State of the Union address, but moving the company forward. So it's kind of like, look, we understand COVID-19. We know there's a problem. We get it. And now we're talking about the business. So in the early days, it was probably 50% about the virus and 50% about business. Now the videos are like 1% about the virus and 99% about the business. You know, it's like, we understand we have an issue. We're moving forward. And in a time of crisis and wartime situation, leaders are dying to be led. You know, followers are looking to follow. Leaders need to lead. And he just decided it was time to lead, and everyone lined up behind him.
Yeah. Now, what is your opinion on time tracking software to help your team be more productive?
I think it's pointless. I think it's pointless. I hire people that already manage themselves. I mean, you've got an amazing COO. The last thing you want to do is be tracking Heather's time. Heather already wakes up in the morning knocking the cover off the ball. She hires people like her. I was asked by Fortune magazine back in 2003, how do you motivate your employees? And I said, I don't. I hire motivated people. At the end of the day, when you hire motivated people, you align them with your core purpose, you align them with your vision, you give them the tools to do their job, you get out of their way and you remove obstacles. You don't have to track their time, nor do you have to put bonuses in place. They're going to do their job. I think as soon as you start putting tools in place to manage people, you have the wrong people.
Right. So let's talk about, it's funny because for our admin position, we had Time Doctor for not our managers, but just some of our admin that were working from home. Yep. And we had decided to use Time Doctor, and the response from them was very negative. That it was very like, if you don't trust that I'm doing my work at home, then am I the right employee? So
exactly right. Really and what I would be doing is giving them very clear outputs that you need from them on a daily basis, and helping to remove obstacles from them and coaching them and cheering them on, but not like, if it takes them 3 hours to do their job or 8 hours to do their job, I don't care as long as they do their job. And then your job is to give them more and more to kind of move them up the productivity curve.
So let's talk about some more things that you could do. So Time Doctor's out. What are some things that you can put in place that you would say?
I'll give some big ones right now that are very counterintuitive. The first one is I would start spending money on marketing and branding and PR. The reality is all of the marketing and branding and PR, the cost of advertising has gone way down right now. So if you can actually renegotiate with all of your marketing suppliers, whether it's radio, TV, print, outdoor, billboard, online, Facebook, all of those ad purchases have gone way down in cost. You can get much, much more for your dollar than you could get 2 months ago. If you can put in place 6 months or 12-month buys, you're going to come out of this very, very strong, and you're going to be doing really well right now because most competitors are cutting back. So if you have the cash to be able to invest in marketing and branding, you're going to win in a big, big way. Another thing I would be doing is spending some time and some money on growing my team, growing the skill set of my employees, really working on growing. So let's say across your management team, training them on situational leadership, time management, interviewing, meeting rhythms, problem solving, coaching, product management, but giving them skills in all of these areas. The more that you grow your people, the more that you grow your company. So I'd be really working on increasing some of those spends right now as well. I'd also be looking at firing some of my worst customers right now. You know, we've often got these customers that I call, they have the high PITA factor, the high pain in the ass factor. They're the ones that take up all of our time. We don't get a lot of gross margin off of, and they throw a lot of negative energy around our business. When you get rid of those people, you can sometimes get rid of some employees that have to work with them as well. So you've cut your overhead and you really haven't done much to your margin other than help out the positive energy in your organization.
So as far as time management skills when they are at home, because the truth is you could have the best person. It doesn't mean that you don't have the best person, but I would say a lot of people say, okay, when I'm working at home, I might say, okay, well, let me put a load of laundry in, if they're at home. Oh, their kids are at home. They're interrupting every 5 minutes. Now they're, having to do stuff. Is there any time management things that you can think of that
Yeah,
you put in place for that?
it's all about teaching people how to manage their time and teaching people how to manage projects. Take a project, break it up into chunks, think about how much each of the tasks, how many minutes each task is going to take, and then putting those tasks into your calendar and only committing for 5 to 6 hours of output a day, knowing that you have interruptions with Slack and messaging and email and kids. But the reality is, even in the workplace, people only really work on 5 to 6 hours of productivity. They get interrupted. They're on social media. They're talking to their friend. They're dealing with their husband or their pet, or like there's all the normal life interactions that happen as well. Maybe a little bit less, but the reality is people don't work 10 hours in an 8-hour day. They have the other life distractions as well. So I would teach them how to manage projects and teach them about time management and grow their skills that way.
I love that.
When I'm setting their goals for the week, I would be setting goals for their week, and I would be breaking down the goals into projects and chunks and seeing if they have the time in their calendar to actually do that work. So as an example, when you and I are finished our call today, I've got a 1.5 hour block of time in my calendar, color-coded red, for me to work on an agenda for an event that's coming up in 2 weeks. And I know by the end of the day that'll get done because I have it blocked in my calendar to do it. So there's just a skill that we teach people on managing time and projects.
So one of the things that we have implemented in our company is it's kind of once a week, everybody has to give 3 goals. Like no matter what happens this week, these are the 3 things that I'm going to get accomplished. And so what kind of stand-ups or goal settings are you seeing kind of work for virtual teams right now? To say, this is what works the best.
So we do that. We do a top 3 for every employee in every business area, quarterly, monthly, and weekly. And then I use an app called Commit to 3. It's $3 per person for the year. And it's where people set their daily top 3 goals with their business area. And they have to be measurable. There has to be a dollar sign, a number sign, or a percentage sign in each of the goals. So it's really kind of ratcheting up that weekly goal setting to a daily goal setting system. But I like that you're doing it weekly with your team right now. It's powerful. So whether you do it in a stand-up, the key is they have to commit it to each other, but it has to be measurable. There has to be a dollar sign, a number sign, or a percentage sign in each of the goals. That way they know if they hit it or missed it.
So give me an example of when you say with the dollar sign. So
I had one of my team today in his top 3 said to me he had the call with, he's like the marketing team call. I'm like, that's a goal? That's not measurable. Like, what do you want to get out of the marketing team goal? What are you impacting on? What are you talking about? What are you moving forward? Like, give me something to I know that got accomplished. Right? It's like tightening that up.
Right. So what would you do with people who consistently were coming to those meetings and saying, I only hit one, one of the analogies that I like to give people is that overall for the month, like some weeks you should be hitting 3 out of 3. Some you should be hitting 2 out of 3. I have a tennis coach that gave me a great example. He said that when you know you're playing really good tennis, you are winning 2 out of every 3 matches. Because if you're winning 3 out of every 3, that means you're not challenging yourself at all. You're just you're one category too low. Yeah. If you're doing 1 out of 3, now your self-esteem is shot. So we kind of say out of 3 weeks, 1 week you should be hitting 3 out of 3, the next week 3 out of 3, but then the next week maybe 2 out of 3 on an average of 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I like that. I've never worked that tightly with people, but I like that mindset that we're always challenging ourselves. So for me, a SMART goal, I use a different acronym. The S is for shared, that your goal has to be shared with at least one other person, either a coach or a mentor or a teammate or your peer or an advisor. The M is measurable, the dollar sign, number sign, or percentage sign. The A is attainable. So it has to be a stretch, but there has to be a possible way that you can get there. The R for me is relevant, that the reason we're working on that goal is it's tied to a bigger project for the company or some bigger objective for the organization. And then the T is time-based. And I need to know how much time it's taking you to do the project and when in your calendar you're doing it. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people run out of time, is they actually don't plan their work very well. The reality is we all have the same amount of time. Most of us just don't schedule it very clearly.
Yeah, and we do a really good job of our weekly goals, but I think that what you just reminded me is that we need to start doing more daily stand-ups. We're not doing them every single day. Do you suggest doing a stand-up every single day, reiterating what that and creating a daily? We kind of have our monthly and our quarterly and then our weekly, but I think doing that daily goal, they're putting, hey, today these are the 3 things I'm getting done to reach my weekly goal.
That was one of the things that was probably the most successful system we put in place at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We put it in place 18 years ago, and they've done it every single day for 18 years, is a daily huddle. It's an all-company stand-up meeting. So now they've got 400 people at the head office. All 400 people stop their work, walk down to the huddle area, and for 7 minutes from 10:55 until 11:02, they have one business area share their updates. People share good news. They share the 3 metrics for the day that they're tracking for the course of the month or the quarter. And then they share any missing systems or frustrations. They finish with a cheer and people go back to their desk. So it's a very quick all company stand up pulse. And then every day it's a different business area reporting in. So you really keep everybody on the same page.
What else?
I actually cover the daily huddles and a lot of the meeting rhythms you're talking about in my book, Meetings Suck, as well. It's a key book for every employee to read. Most business books are written for a leader or the CEO. The book Meetings Suck is written for every employee at every company to actually read.
I love that. Now, in your book, Free PR, I feel like that is like people are all about, how do we get things free right now? Is there any things from that book that would be applicable right now?
Oh, for sure. I talked to a CEO this morning and they said that their industry is getting pummeled right now and they want to get similar stimulus packages to what the airlines are getting. And I said, well, leverage the press. Like right now, every single TV station is dying for coverage. TV coverage is really easy to get because if you just call them and say, I think I have a good story for you, do you have 2 minutes? They're going to send a news crew over to film you. They're always looking for something that's new and fresh, and it's easy for them to cover that stuff. Print coverage with TV or with newspapers are also very, very easy to get. There's no such thing as like investigative journalism where people are going to go out and find the story. The writers and journalists are waiting for something to get dropped on their lap that they can quickly cover and write about. So if you pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, do you have 2 minutes? I think I have a good story for you. Most of them are going to cover the story.
Love it. Now, my favorite book that you've ever written is Double Double, but give people a little glimpse of some tips out of Double Double that would still be applicable today, right now, really in the midst of COVID-19.
Well, there's 2 chapters in there that are very applicable for right now. The first one is chapter 11, and it was numbered chapter 11 on purpose. It's how to grow when it's slow, and it's all of the core systems that a company needs to grow in an economic downturn. So it's exactly what you need to grow in this stage that we're in right now of any business. And then chapter 12 is the next one, and it's about the highs and lows of CEOs. It's why most entrepreneurs are bipolar and how to ride that entrepreneurial roller coaster that we all go through, how to leverage the manic, exciting stages and how to deal with the stressful, depressing stages, and how to teach our employees that why we roll that roller coaster is really just normal. So those are 2 very, very important chapters. There's another one on focus as well. It's really on focusing our time as entrepreneurs and our team so that we try to get more done with less people faster. And that's powerful stuff right now too.
So if you had to give us 3 tips on how to grow when it's slow, give us 3 things that someone could do right now to kind of get.
Well, one is definitely purchasing, marketing, and advertising because it's so cheap and everyone's running away from it. The second one right now is Ray Kroc from McDonald's said, when your competition's drowning, stick a hose in their mouth. So there's a really great opportunity right now to actually figure out which of your competitors are hurting and actually surrounding them with marketing and taking them out, hiring some of their key people, taking away some of their supply chain. It's a little bit Machiavellian, but business is a full contact sport. So taking out your competitors is powerful. Another one is acquisitions right now. Anyone who's in a space to do acquisitions, they just got a lot cheaper than they were 6 months ago. Any business owner who is 60 to 70 years old, the baby boomers, are really tired and they don't have another 5 to 7 years in them to rebuild their company during this downturn. they're more apt to take their company, sell it to you, and they'll probably take 30% of the purchase price over 3 years. The banks will finance 70% of the purchase price, and you can probably do a couple of acquisitions with no money down quite quickly. And then the other one is to kind of take a look at some of the assets that you have in your business and repackage them in a different way. Maybe you've got lists that you can monetize. Maybe you have products or services that you can bundle or rebrand, but it's looking to rebrand or repackage things and market them in a different way that can be exciting to your customers. I think the last one as well is just to remember that there's always a silver lining in everything, right? It's looking for the glass is half full. There's a lot of opportunities that can come out of this. It's an opportunity to cut people that you've been wanting to cut, but you didn't have the guts to. Well, now you can blame it on COVID-19. It's an opportunity to retool. It's time to work on the business. It's time to work on your skills. There's a lot of stuff that you can do if you decide to actually do it. But if you spend most of your time on social media and reading the newspaper about how bad it is, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I feel bad in saying this, but I've had so much joy during all of this. I feel like I've been as happy as I can be. And I almost feel bad telling people that. And the reason why is because I feel like, 6 months ago, we made the decision that we were going virtual, and we had kind of told people about it, and they were a little bit on board, but they weren't they were kind of like, well, I don't know. And so now we had already planned all this in place, and now it's allowed us to be like, yep, we had a 1-year plan of what we were going to do. And instead of a 1-year plan going virtual, we were like, boom. Yeah. So it's made me super happy.
And you've always been a very optimistic, focus-driven leader. So you're going to do really well in this time. Misery loves company, right? So if there's this time right now when if you're in this doom and gloom phase, there's going to be a lot of people that will suck you into that vortex. But if you decide to see the opportunity and to focus on the growth, it's all there as well. There's a lot of people that do very, very well in this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as any other practical companies, can you talk to us of maybe companies you've coached that you've said, this company, this is what they did, this is how they pivoted, that you can give some ideas for them to kind of really practically see how they pivoted and what they've done to grow?
Well, one was definitely a company that really went after their competition, and they put a hiring bonus in place. So let's say that somebody was going to earn $100,000 a year as an employee. They put a $50,000 recruiting bonus in place. And if you recruited anybody away from a competitor, so let's say one of your current employees found somebody from a competitor to come and join you, they'd get a $50,000 bonus for having recruited that person, but they get $10,000 a year for 5 years. But it's paid out at month 12, at month 24, at month 36, 48, and 60, as long as both people are still with the company. So it became a really good incentive to pull people away. It wasn't a cash flow drain at all. It hurt the competitor and it helped them, and it gave the current employees a little bit more money, but it was delayed. So it was a built-in retention program, a recruiting program. It hurt the competition, and it was good on cash flow. And that's a really easy system to put in place.
Let's talk about any 1099 things that you can put in place. One of the things we've implemented is, obviously right now we're keeping people as employees because it makes financial sense for the PPP. But we have a plan that we're going to ignite that once things roll out is that, we're going to move some of our positions to being on a per basis thing. And what I mean by that is we're going to have something like we have a BOA, which is a branch office administrator, and then we have a VOA, which is a virtual office administrator. And those people are kind of our extra overflow. So meaning, I have most businesses are seasonal, right? And so you have extra people who can kind of work as 1099 on an as needed basis. Have you seen anyone do that well?
There's certainly, I guess there's something there about using fractional employees and remote employees or outsourced employees. So there's a huge opportunity to use fractional labor, to use people out of the Philippines to, and not necessarily needing full time. Like the days of needing to have a full-time employee come to an office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, that was totally our parents' generation. Now what we need is I've got some stuff done. that needs to be done, but not by me. And if I have a whole bunch of stuff, it might add up into a full job for somebody. But I think it's teaching people the opportunity to leverage and outsource. You could have 40 people working 5 hours a week each, but they're experts. You got a copywriter that's 5 hours a week. You got a designer that's 5 hours a week. We used to have to hire a designer full time and then find work for them. That's a lot of additional overhead and waste and churn. Companies have to start adapting now to using freelancers and freelance experts versus full time.
I agree. Any tips on hiring those freelancers and any systems you could have put in place to make sure they're doing
suppliers? Most companies do a shitty job at hiring freelancers and suppliers, and they do a better job at hiring a full-time employee. So if you're hiring a full-time employee, you should screen their resume, you should do a culture check, you should do a first interview, do a second interview, do a threat of reference check, do reference checks, maybe do a background check, and then hire. If you're hiring a freelancer, put them through the same process. But most people are like, oh, they're a freelancer, I'll hire them. Well, you don't know anything about them. You don't know how they act, you don't know how they operate, you don't know their values. So put the freelancers through that same kind of a process. Give them practice work to submit. Say, here, take this and rewrite it for me or whatever. Same with suppliers. Most people will, oh, I know a good copywriter, you should hire them. Great, I'll hire the supplier. You don't know anything about that company. So put your suppliers and your freelancers through the same interviewing process you'd put a full employee through, and you come out of those really, really strong.
Any hiring technology that you've seen that is good for virtual? Like I know have you heard of Spark Hire?
Yeah, Spark Hire is really good on the video side. Hireology is another good one. I've been a little out of the loop on the interviewing software in the last couple of years. So outside of that, I don't know. Spark Hire is good on the video side. Hireology is good on the other. I can't say that I have any others that are coming top of mind right now.
Yeah, we actually are going to create our own software that is like Spark Hire to help with that video, because it's really them just taking a video, uploading it into a platform, and then just creating our own software.
I'm very reticent. I'm always reticent to create our own technology just because it keeps my IT people busy, but it doesn't necessarily work from an ROI perspective. That sometimes if you turn to an IT group and you say, look, I don't want you to build anything for 12 months. I don't want you to buy anything for 12 months. I want you to find 10 free software solutions to replace 10 expenses in the company that we can plug in for free. But IT people don't think that way. They all want to build everything. And the reality is you can go on a site called Capterra and it'll show you 30 different recruiting software platforms that already exist. They're already rated against each other. They show you all the features and benefits. You can pick the ones you need and plug them in and have them working by Thursday. Or you can pay for an IT team to build it and deal with functional requirements and specs and churn and quality assurance. But all you're doing is building out your back end instead of I'm way in favor of using a lot of free technology tools that can be plugged in if you can use it.
Okay, give us your top 5 free technology tools that you love.
Well, free or very cheap, commit to 3, right, is a really good one, or Asana or Zoom. Like Zoom's a free platform. There's just lots of really good, solid little tools that you can use. Slack is another one. People can build messaging software, but you really need it. You can use Google Sheets. Google Docs is free.
And Commit to 3, is that something you created?
No, it's not. It's a guy who heard me speak about the opportunity of setting top 3 goals on a quarterly, monthly, weekly basis. He loved the idea and he built an app to do it on a daily basis to have his team more focused.
Love it. Love it.
It's a really great, simple tool.
Awesome. All right. Well, leave us with any last ideas that you have to get us to be able to pivot with an amazing attitude.
I think the big one is to remember that none of this actually matters. That this is simply what we all do to make money. None of us are getting out of this alive. We're all going to die. So we may as well have some fun along the way and enjoy the ride, because this is just what we're doing to pay the bills. And I think if we can relax and have some fun and remember to not take ourselves so seriously, that really kind of rubs off on our team in a really positive way as well.
I love it. I know we have not laid off anyone because of COVID-19 in our company, except for one girl that had a bad attitude. It's kind of like what you said earlier. Like we had been wanting to fire her for a really long time. She already had like 3 write-ups for having a bad attitude. And as soon as this happened, I said, boom, that girl is gone.
Yeah.
But we have no one else, and we found someone to replace her. But yeah, I love that, because it's like, if you look at all the blessings that this actually can bring to your business and really focus on that, and like how wonderful some of these new changes are going to be, then you can't just help but be joyful.
It's pretty amazing, right? Yeah, if you really stay focused on that, and you're right about firing the cultural cancers, those cultural cancers kind of eat throughout the organization. You really have to, almost like you have a cancerous tumor in your body, you got to cut it out and get rid of it right away. You can't let it sit there for long.
Yeah, I have to tell you one funny thing. When I came to see you speak, you came down for an EO function. And I remember this very distinctly. You said something like, if you have someone in your organization that you feel like you should fire, but you don't have the guts to do it, you said, stand up. And I stood up. And then you were like, something like, go out there and fire them. And so I'm a take action person, right? So as soon as I got back from the talk,
Awesome.
I went back in the office and I fired them instantly. And people who are still with me today, they're like, they say something like, "Oh yeah, remember when you fired so and so because Cameron Herald?"
Oh really?
Too? Yeah. So we still have that talk.
Well, the guy who taught me that lesson 20 years ago, he and I are still friends. And it's just when you have doubt, you have no doubt, right? And I always think now of the doctor analogy. If the doctor told me I had a cancerous tumor, I would cut it out right away. It's the same with the company. If you just got to get them out.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing such an amazing work and helping so many business owners. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
You're welcome, Chantel. Thanks for having me.
So tell listeners just a little bit about where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Sure. So all of my books, I've got 5 books: Double Double, Free PR, Meetings Suck, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and Vivid Vision. They're all available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. My Second in Command podcast is a great podcast for people to subscribe to. Everyone interviews the entrepreneur. I want the rest of the story. In fact, I interviewed your second in command to be on our podcast because everyone's told your story. I want to get the other side of the story. So we got a really good glimpse inside of your business from talking to Heather.
And she's amazing. She's amazing.
Fantastic. And she just she's like your yin and yang. She's the perfect counterpart to you. So that's a really great podcast. And then if the company is bigger, if you're 5 million or greater, check out the COO Alliance as well.
Love it. And you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a minute. Bye-bye for now.